Hello folks, welcome back to Burkbank Farms. Farmer Jeff here. Today we're going to talk about strawberries. The reason we're talking about strawberries is it's almost 33 degrees out here right now and it's still before lunchtime. Oh, poor Christian sweating there behind the camera just thinking about it. Wow, yeah, right on, Christian. We want to talk a number of things about strawberries today. First of all, we want to talk about what are the food safety considerations one should keep in one's mind around it. Secondly, what can I do at the farm level when we incorporate some of these thoughts around food safety? Now, if Christian had been here on time this morning, we were still irrigating this field here. The reason we do that is twofold. Obviously, the plants need moisture, but by giving some mid-morning moisture to this particular field here, the evaporative cooling effect of that irrigation will actually keep this field probably about roughly 8 to 10 degrees Celsius below the ambient air temperature for most of the afternoon. What does that do? It gives you a firmer berry, and you know what it does for me? It makes a little berry like that that's green get to be a big berry like that that's red, and we sell by the pound. So the whole point is I want big berries to sell to you, and you love big berries, don't you? Absolutely. But there's a number of things we need to consider when we put the premise of food safety into it. Irrigation water. Where does my irrigation water come from? I assume it's clean water. I assume that because why wouldn't it be? But our irrigation water comes from, in our particular situation, comes from what they call groundwater, meaning we pump it up from an aquifer under the ground into a holding pond where we then pump from the holding pond out to the field itself. Other farmers use a variety of sources. They might use streams, creeks, lakes, rivers, what have you. But there's an issue out there. This is the year 2003, not the year 1003. And we know a whole lot more. I would have assumed because our groundwater is actually the same water we consume in our house, our staff drinks, we wash our produce with, that it's perfectly safe. We never ever thought about testing that water. Now we're doing testing on a weekly basis, both in the pack house, in our house, and we actually test our irrigation water to determine, are there some issues around microbial contamination that maybe we need to be aware of? I could tell you that if there are issues of microbial contamination, we don't have any solutions yet, but isn't it better to get a sense of what are the problems and then push through science to achieve those solutions? And we will get them. What we're finding is that water for irrigation is all over the map. In our own situation, we've had tests based on last year and this year. Generally, they tend to be zero, meaning or a negative, but we have had positive tests for coliform. Luckily not for E. coli, the dreaded little critter that certainly made the media and you know all about. But when you look around the province at the general quality of surface water, what we used to assume was clean water is anything but. And a lot of it is beyond the point of what can we do? Because please don't tell me, Farmer Jeff, if the water's a positive, don't irrigate, let the crops die. Folks, that's not going to happen. I can tell you that right now. But we've got to come up with some solutions, a quick test to determine is there an issue with the water, and then match that up with a solution that's implementable on maybe a few hours notice, certainly on a day's notice if I'm going to irrigate. That's where we move from this point forward on that one. The other thing about strawberries touch the ground, as Christian panned them before. Look at all those nice ripe strawberries. Well, we certainly know the soil has a lot of organisms in it. Good organisms, bad organisms, inert organisms. But we all know that if a strawberry's resting for any length of time on some wet soil, there's probably going to be an issue around a disease called botrytis. Botrytis is a fungus, and it basically is when you put them in your fridge overnight and they're a little damp, and in the morning they've grown beards like Santa Claus, that's botrytis, or gray mold. And they're kind of yucky. You can wash it off, but bottom line is we generally throw them out. And what we do here is we address the issue with fungicides. We have a fungicide program here, and I should mention everything we do here is under the auspices of the Pest Management Regulatory Agency. But we follow a regime, as other growers do, of a program to give you as close to possible as a problem-free strawberry, so that when you put it in your fridge, it's not going to look like Santa Claus the next morning or a few friends of mine that are getting somewhat elderly in age. And you need to know that because All I can do is my best job at the farm level. You have a responsibility once it gets to your level as well. Do we wash the berries when they're picked here? No. One thing we do though is with our own pickers, and our guys are from Trinidad, they're pretty clean guys. I think I'm a pretty clean guy too. But there's things we don't know. What did you touch with your hands on the way out to the strawberry field? Did you rest your hand on the wagon that some bird might have on, and you just don't know about that thing, and there could be some microbial contamination in it? Our guys now actually have field sanitizers. They wash their hands with an alcohol-based sanitizing solution before they pick. The idea being to give you as best as possible a problem-free strawberry. However, out in our field right now, and Christian's going to go give you some video of that shortly, we're in to pick your own. And I can assure you, right now, the average age of the picker in my strawberry field right today is about 6 years old, because it seems to be Mother's Day with all the neighborhood kids. I don't think the mother has properly ensured that their kids have sanitized their hands. I don't think the mother has suggested, maybe before those kids pop those nice ripe strawberries into their mouth, that they wash them off. And this goes back to, what can I do? What do you need to do? You have a responsibility as well when we talk about safe strawberries. I mentioned that there's an enigma around my irrigation water. We're working on it, and I don't mean just me as Farmer Jeff here, but as an industry. But I think we also need to get a sense of, are there proper protocols that you need to do once you get the strawberries back into your house? If you're out in the strawberry field, should you let your kids nilly-willy eat a strawberry? 10 years ago, I would have said, of course, why not? Well, right now, who knows? Whoops, oh, got that bird bloop almost got me there, but it certainly got that strawberry behind me. And these are things that we need to be conscious of, simply because we know a lot more now. Our analytical capabilities is much greater today than in the past. And what we're trying to do here, as part of our learning experience at Burkbank Farms, is set up a thing. So what should people know when they're out in a strawberry field picking berries? The reality is, one of the things we do know, you should be washing your hands before you go into the field. You really should be washing the fruit off before you consume it, especially fresh fruit in the field. Now, in the old days, we would have said to wash those nasty pesticides off. I think everyone agrees now that pesticides are the very least of our concerns, simply because of the regulatory framework around pesticides. We don't know enough about microbial contamination that we do know can make people sick. Does that mean don't eat strawberries? Please, please eat lots of strawberries. Especially come to my place, pick strawberries and eat lots. But wash them first, rinse them off, and wash your hands thoroughly before, if in fact you're going to be picking them or you're in the field at all. This is Farmer Jeff saying toodly-doo.